Well, welcome back to camp, and today's the day that the shelter is coming down. So if you've watched the last video, you'll know that I'm going to be building a new Viking shelter in the place where I've actually had my shelter since 2019. So for me to do that, what I'm going to be doing is actually taking the shelter down today, setting out a little bit of a sort of floor plan of the new shelter, and again getting some resources. So let's just get cracking straight away so we can get straight into it, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start off with this side because underneath here has got the tarp, and what I'm planning on doing is sort of laying all the moss on the tarp and actually sort of keeping it moist, because it does have a bit of greenness in it. There is a bit of an ecosystem to it. And again, as I always tend to do, a bit of recycling. So I'm going to be using the moss in the new shelter as well. It's really thick. So again, I've got branches and things like that integrated into it, but I've also got sort of twine across it as well, which the concept was it was going to hold all the moss on. So you can see there's the tarp just underneath, and as I said, I'm just going to lay the tarp off, and then just actually put all the moss on top of it, as I was saying earlier on. But that has sort of rolled off in one massive big piece, so again for storage it might actually be a little bit easier. So you can see what I've been sort of doing in here. So I've been sort of laying sticks down and then integrating the moss into the sticks, just so that the moss actually stays in position. So that's the shelter. What I'm going to do, I'll get the camera and I'm just going to do a bit of a zoom in, because it's quite a good sort of way of actually being able to sort of see the way that I did it initially, sort of idea. And to an extent there's going to be some similarities I should say, between old and new, but I'm probably not going to have sort of cross beams, but I've got lots of ideas in my head, and some of it is going to actually just sort of, as I'm going, I'm going to sort of make decisions on what I'm going to do. But that's the bed as well. But as I said, I'll get the camera and I'll show you in a bit more detail. So as I said, one of the mistakes I probably made was at the top it was twine that was holding it together, as opposed to me, what I should have probably done was just wedged everything, as I have with the likes of these ones here. So again, they've been sort of woven through, but also batted. Whereas on the lights at the top, for some reason I didn't do that. But again, you live and learn. And then I've got the bed just there, the table, and then a shelf just on the top. So it was a really good little concept, really good idea. And I said it's been there since 2019, so it has survived a long time. Right, so let's get the other side off now as well. I just want to show you one last little thing. So that's how I put the moss on the other side. So again, it was all sort of weaved through, whereas on this side there was the tarp, but on that side it's all weaved through, and then the moss sort of integrated into it. And I said that has lasted a long time. Now you can sort of see what I'd done. Same as the other side, but it's a little bit more visual this side. So as I said, the branches were weaved through the frame itself, and then the moss sort of integrated into the branches. And I mean, as I said, that's been there for quite a while, as I said, multiple times, and it worked really well. Now, that is one of the big debates I'm going to have, and I'll talk to you about it a wee bit later on. So that's it laid bare on that side as well. And as I can really see the mistake I made. So if you look at the bits here, I have cut sections in there and overlapped it on the main beam. But for some bizarre reason on these ones, I've not. And when you look at each individual one that I've done on this side, they've all moved. Again, that one probably the most. So it's separated. I've just relied on twine, and the twine itself is actually snapped. But there's a shelf, there was the table, and the bed as well. Okay, so I'm gonna have a wee pause for lunch just now. Burgers, really looking forward to it, really hungry. But one wee question roof wise, I've not quite decided 100% yet as to whether to reintegrate the moss. Because again, sort of Viking shelters, you tend to find they were sort of turf or alternatively moss or alternatively bark. And as per last video, one of the comments I was sort of making was I really do fancy the idea on bark. But if you can just pop a wee comment below, what do you think? I'm certainly no expert in this. This is just me coming out and having fun in the woods. You know, so constantly learning, and as you can see, learned a lot just even from taking that down, being able to see some of the mistakes I made. But I said, just get a wee bit of advice if anyone knows. The one wee thing I'm looking at with the bark side of things is to sort of flatten it, you do need to sort of lay it out in warm water, I should say. And then put weights on it. Well, I don't really have facilities for that. I do have a river, but again, that's just going to be cold water. So that might be a bit of a challenge, but in an ideal world, I was wanting to sort of make bark slates or something along that sort of lines. But I said, just pop a little comment below what you think, what sort of type of roof I should do. But no, that's been amazing, really amazing. Emotional at the same time, because as I said, I've done so much out here and it has been so much fun. So I've still to take the main structure down itself, but as I said, just getting a little bit hungry, so I'm gonna have some food just now, and then it'll just be a case of taking the main shelter down. Want to have a look at the sort of footprint that we're going to be doing for the next project, and then we'll go up and actually have a look at the quantity of bark that's there and how flat it is, and try and sort of see whether that is something that might be able to be used when it comes to the actual build of it itself. So no, exciting, really exciting. Can't wait to get physically started with the holes and drilling and all that sort of things as well. And I'm going to be trying to do the whole thing with hand tools, you know, or as many hand tools as possible. I will be using nails because Vikings had nails, etc. as well. You know, so I will be using nails more just from the point of view of safety. You know, I want the structure to be solid. I certainly don't want it to have a potential where it might fall down or anything at all on any members of the public, because the public do come into camp and actually have a wee play around and have picnics on the picnic table as well. But time for some lunch, and then we'll get cracking with the next wee part of work. How good does that look? Not quite the Cullen skink of last week, but I'm equally as excited. Okay, so quick wee bit of food. I've been craving a burger for the last few days and thought, why not take advantage of it? And a wee nice cup of coffee. And then I said we'll get back to it. And this is going to be the tough bit, actually cutting down and taking away the frame itself. And then I said we're just going to sit down and we're going to have a wee look at the sort of the footprint of it, and then we'll head up into the woods. So I'm just going to finish this off just now, and then I'll hook up with you. Now this might come in useful again. So this was the hazel hurdle wall that had basically the back, and it was really good because it brought extra light in, because it wasn't solid, but the other thing it did as well was it actually created sort of ventilation as well at night, which was really, really nice. So I need to try and keep this as much as I can. And I've had to have this support up here for quite a while, just again because of how much the shelter was actually leaning over. So again, we're going we're going to take that down as well. Okay, onto the main shelter itself. And again, I'll be making sure. So what I did was on this bit, so I've got that side is there's a wedge in there, and then the opposite side on the other side was on the other side of the wood, and then again it was sort of crisscrossed. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'm also quite impressed with how good the bits of wood actually are. Now the other thing I'd done on various ones, I'd actually whittled pegs, drilled Scotch augers. So again, I'll post a wee photo there just now off it. And that just made it a lot better from the point of view of it holding it in place, but I didn't do it consistently. I only did it every second one, which I thought would have held it all in place. But again, lessons learned. Now, the other thing as well, from the point of view of the twine on that side where it was underneath the tarp was actually perfect. It was perfectly dry and the knot was really good. And obviously on the other side that was sort of more branches, again, the twine had been sort of rotten, hence why the the beams on that side had sort of fallen over. So again, lessons learned, and that's what it's all about. As I said, I'm certainly no expert on this. This is just me out having fun in the woods. But again, lots of lessons learned for the next project, which I'm really looking forward to starting. So just going to finish this off, get rid of the bed, and then we're going to have a wee look at the footprint and try and see how big this new shelter is going to be. So that's it, shelter's gone. New start, new beginning. So excited, I really am so excited. The one thing I have discovered, I was wanting to try and sort of lay out a footprint. I don't have bits big enough or long enough. So again, I'm going to show you still, because I can actually sort of show you where it was up to. And again, I've got one piece, so I'm going to lay that out, and that'll give you an idea. I reckon I'm maybe going to get an extra 4 foot at the end, making it that little bit longer. I do apologise about the barking dog in the background. That's pretty big. And I reckon I can maybe even go another couple of foot. Yeah, that's pretty big. So one of the other things I was wanting to do just before I sort of close off the video, because I'm losing a lot of light, was just really discussing the roof. Again, if you look at the amount of bark that's there, and then I'm going to take you down to another area. So if we also sort of have a look around here as well. So as I said, this is definitely one of the options. So I said the options I've got are the weaving again and then doing the moss, or alternatively doing the turf, or alternatively doing the bark. So as I said, please leave a wee comment below, anyone that's actually used it. It'd be very much appreciated. As I said, I think the issue that I've got is not being able to soak it to try and make it a bit more sort of malleable and flat sort of idea. But certainly I think I could make tiles. So say for instance on that section there, it's just basically a case of if I can make some tiles out of it. But there certainly seems to be resources here for it if I want. But I'm going to get the frame up, and then once I've actually got the frame up, I can sort of move on to the sort of final part. And again, I'm just going to turn my camera around so you can see this. But there is certainly lots of material here. Just for the actual shelter itself. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed it, although emotional. As I said, just sort of taking that shelter down after all those years. But it was time. You could sort of see things were rotting, and there were some mistakes that I'd actually made that had sort of made it a bit more sort of critical more than anything else. So it was definitely time for it to come down. And it is super excited about coming up with a new plan, and I've got so many exciting things that I've actually got sort of in my head for it, and it's going to be so much fun sort of bringing that out onto the channel and let you guys have a look at it. So I'm going to close the video off here. As I said, I'm losing a lot of light just now, so I just want to say a massive thank you, and we'll see you in the next video, and hopefully we'll start getting the frames up.